Have you ever felt that split second, right before you say something you'll later wish you hadn't? It's a tiny, almost invisible moment, a gap so brief, most people miss it entirely. That space between thought and speech. And when it's ignored, emotions flood in, anger flares, frustration spills out, impulse takes control. Most people live in that automatic reaction zone. But not the Stoics. The Stoics trained their minds to detect this gap, to pause, reflect, and decide whether the words forming in their minds actually needed to be spoken at all. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers and Roman emperors, once wrote, "You always have the power of not having an opinion." In other words, you can choose silence. But let's be honest, how often do we actually choose it? We live in a world where silence feels like weakness, where everyone rushes to comment, to react, to be heard, and yet, more often than not, it's our emotions, not our reason, driving those words. So what if we flipped that script? Today, we'll explore 10 timeless Stoic lessons that will help you master your words. Speak with purpose, and most importantly, understand the immense power of holding your tongue. Lesson 1. Silence is strength. Too many people talk simply because they're uncomfortable with quiet. They fill the air with chatter, thinking that saying something, anything, is better than saying nothing. But the Stoics believed the opposite. Nature gave us 2 ears and only 1 tongue for a reason: to listen twice as much as we speak. As Epictetus put it, letting go is where real power lies. Once you stop feeling the urge to fill silence, you gain control, not just over the conversation, but over yourself. You stay grounded, while others reveal who they really are through their words. Try it. The next time you're with someone, resist the urge to speak first. Let the silence stretch just a little longer than usual. You'll notice something fascinating. The one who talks less often holds the most sway. Silence isn't just the absence of noise, it's a tool, a shield, a quiet form of dominance. Most people misunderstand this. They think that being in control means having the loudest voice or the last word. But the Stoics knew better. Control is not about how much you say, but how well you can stay silent when it matters most. Think back to the last time you were around someone who wouldn't stop talking. Did it feel like they were confident? Or did it feel like they were covering something up, maybe fear, insecurity, or a desperate need to dominate? Were they trying to talk over you instead of truly listening? Now ask yourself, how did that make you feel? Chances are, their words didn't make them seem powerful, they made them seem unsteady, uncontrolled, maybe even desperate. Epictetus wasn't just being poetic when he said we should listen more than we speak. He was laying down a way of life. When you speak less, you observe more. You become a quiet watcher of human nature. People reveal so much through their words, if you give them the space to do so. Their fears, their doubts, their lies, they leak out when they can't stop talking. Imagine being in the middle of a heated argument. Emotions are high, words fly like arrows. Most people say things they don't mean, or worse, things they've been hiding for a long time. And once those words are out, there's no taking them back. But what if you didn't respond? What if, instead of defending yourself or firing back, you just stayed quiet? You let the other person unravel their own story. Here's where it gets interesting. The silence becomes unbearable for them. They start adding more, saying things they didn't plan to say, maybe even things that aren't true. They want to pull you in, to bait you into reacting. But you don't have to take the bait. You just have to pause. And from that pause comes power. Now, let's look at the second Stoic lesson and see how it builds on this powerful idea of restraint. That moment of silence we talked about, it isn't just a pause. It's a decision point, a place where self-mastery begins. There's a story about an old Stoic philosopher, known far and wide for his incredible self-control. Even in the heat of intense arguments, when others would have snapped or lashed out, he remained silent. Calm, grounded, his enemies would try to provoke him, to lure him into saying something he'd regret, but he never fell for it. Why? Because he understood a vital truth. Hasty words can be dangerous. They can betray you, and sometimes, saying nothing at all is far more powerful than giving in to the urge to speak. The next time someone pushes your buttons, pause. Don't react. Let the silence settle. Let it weigh in the air. Observe how the other person behaves. Are they squirming, fidgeting, growing irritated or anxious? That's a sign. They expected you to lose control. But you won't. You'll stay still, centered, unshaken. Seneca once wrote, "He who does not know how to be silent will not know how to speak." And that quote cuts deep. Because those who constantly talk never learn the value of measured speech. But those who can sit in silence, those who watch, who think, who wait, those people earn respect. Their words carry weight. Practice this daily. When you're in a conversation, resist the urge to speak first. Let others reveal themselves, their fears, their intentions, their true character. All come out when you give them the space. And if you choose to speak, make sure your words are intentional. Speak only when your words are necessary, meaningful, and precise. In a world where everyone is shouting to be heard, the person who speaks with purpose will always stand out. Lesson 2. Think before you speak. Seneca offered a powerful warning. Speech in a hurry is foolish. And he was right. Most people don't actually respond, they react. Instantly, emotionally, without a second thought. And that's exactly when words become most harmful. Because in moments of anger, fear, or excitement, we say things we don't fully mean. We don't consider the ripple effect, how those words might land, linger, or damage. But just a few seconds of silence, just a small pause before you open your mouth, can prevent years of regret. Ask yourself, is this necessary? Before you speak, does it help? Will I regret this later? If the answer is no, then don't say it. This one habit, this simple pause, can eliminate 90% of the problems in your life. Truly wise people have trained themselves to think carefully before speaking. Sadly, most people haven't. They blurt out whatever crosses their mind, letting emotions steer the conversation. But once a word leaves your lips, it's no longer yours to take back. Words can heal or wound. They can lift someone up or tear them down. They can build trust or destroy it completely. That's why Seneca's warning is so critical. Hasty speech isn't just careless, it's a sign of inner weakness. It reveals a lack of self-control. The Stoics knew this. That's why they practiced pausing. They trained themselves to slow down, to think before they spoke. We emphasized the power of pausing to think before speaking. Now, let's explore why being deliberate with your words might be one of the strongest tools you have. This one simple habit, choosing your words carefully, can protect you from more harm than almost anything else in life. Imagine this. You receive a message that makes your blood boil. Maybe it's an angry email, a false accusation, or a comment from someone who clearly doesn't understand you. What's your first instinct? Probably to snap back, to defend yourself, to strike, to prove a point. But what if you didn't? What if you waited, just for a moment, until you felt calm before replying? How many times have you said something in anger and then wished you could take it back? Marcus Aurelius, one of the most revered Stoic philosophers, often reminded himself, silence is the best response to anger. He understood that words spoken in frustration are rarely wise, and that the fleeting satisfaction they bring isn't worth the long-term consequences they create. So before you say anything, pause and ask yourself 3 key questions. Is this important? Am I speaking because it's necessary, or just because I want to be heard? Will this actually help? If what you're about to say won't fix the situation, it's just wasted air, ask yourself, will I regret this later? If you notice your emotions clouding your judgment, step back, hit pause, take a breath, because in the heat of the moment, what seems like the perfect comeback might seem foolish in hindsight. The wise person finds space between thought and speech. Those who learn this pause will carry far fewer regrets. But those who can't control their tongue will always be forced to repair the damage they've caused. So challenge yourself today. Wait 3 full seconds before responding to anything. Whether you're having a casual chat, a heated argument, or facing a tough moment, use those 3 seconds to think. You'll be surprised by how much tension disappears on its own when you give it that space. And remember, the words you don't say are often just as powerful as the ones you do. Lesson 3. The less you say, the more people listen. People knew that Cato, the Stoic statesman, wasn't one to speak often. But when he did, everyone listened. Why? Because he only spoke when he had something meaningful to say. When you talk too much, your words start to lose their impact. But when you speak with intention, each word matters more. Start practicing the art of brevity. Cut your sentences down. Eliminate the fluff. In communication, less is more. We explored how the fewer words you speak, the more power they hold. Now, let's look deeper into why how you say something often matters far more than how much you say. The impression you leave behind isn't built on volume. It's built on clarity, intention, and restraint. Cato, the Stoic statesman, understood this principle deeply. He wasn't quiet because he lacked ideas or courage. On the contrary, he had a sharp mind and a strong voice. But he chose to use that voice only when it truly mattered. And because he didn't waste time with trivial words, people leaned in when he finally spoke. His silence wasn't emptiness, it was presence. And in that calm presence lay real strength. Think of someone you admire. Someone who can command a room without raising their voice. These people rarely speak without purpose. They don't speak to fill silence. They speak because what they have to say counts. In a world full of noise, people who choose their words wisely shine brighter. Their voices cut through the clutter. Their message lands because it's rare, focused, and real. You can practice this in your daily life. In every conversation, resist the urge to speak just to fill the space. Ask yourself, what's the purpose of what I'm about to say? Does this add value to the conversation? Is this necessary right now? If the answer is no, stay silent. When you remove the clutter from your speech, the words you do say gain tremendous power. Marcus Aurelius was deeply aware of this. In his meditations, he wrote about how crucial it was to speak simply, clearly, and with intention. As a Roman emperor surrounded by endless chatter, complaints, and demands, he had to train his mind to tune out the noise. and focus only on what truly mattered. By talking less, he made his words matter more, and people listened. You can start doing this today. Try asking yourself, how can I say this in fewer words? The next time you're speaking with someone, go straight to the point. Avoid over-explaining. Don't bury the message in too many layers. When you speak with precision, people not only hear you better, they respect your words more. They'll know that if you're speaking, it's because you have something worth hearing. Never forget, people listen more when you speak less. Your words carry more weight when surrounded by silence, and every sentence becomes a reflection of your discipline, awareness, and control. Lesson 4. Control your emotions. Control your words. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Know this, and you will be strong. Most people let their words be dictated by their emotions. If they're angry, they lash out. If they're excited, they make promises they can't keep. If they're afraid, they speak from uncertainty rather than wisdom. But the Stoics learned to pause and examine their feelings before acting on them. When you're angry, say nothing. Just be still. Take a few deep breaths. Don't let your words come rushing out in the heat of the moment. Wait until your emotions settle. Then ask yourself, are these words even necessary? Because controlling your speech truly begins with mastering your emotional responses. Marcus Aurelius used to remind himself, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That might sound simple, but it holds a powerful truth. You can't control every person you meet or every event you face. But you do have complete control over how you react to them, and that includes what you say. Unfortunately, most people don't live this way. They let their emotions drive their words. Anger pushes them to say cruel things. Excitement makes them promise things they can't deliver. Fear makes them lie to avoid discomfort, even at the cost of honesty. To the Stoics, emotional outbursts were signs of weakness. That's why they dedicated their lives to mastering their inner world, training themselves to stay calm, focused, and composed. One of their most essential practices was simple: pause before speaking, especially when emotions are running high. We've all said things in frustration or anger that we later regretted. In those moments, we need to remember that words spoken in emotional storms are rarely wise. You regain control over your speech when you stop, breathe, and try to understand what you're feeling before you respond. Think back to a time when someone said something that made your blood boil. Maybe it was an insult, an unfair accusation, or a sharp criticism. Your first instinct may have been to snap back, to defend yourself, to explain your side, or even to attack. But what if you hadn't reacted? What if, instead, you took a moment, stepped away, took a deep breath, let the emotion pass? Doing that clears your mind. And when the fog lifts, you'll respond, not react. You'll speak with thoughtfulness, restraint, and power. Seneca, another great Stoic, understood this deeply. He warned against speaking when emotions are still overpowering our reason. He wrote, "If something in the outside world disturbs you, it is not the thing itself that troubles you, it is your judgment of it." That's a powerful realization. Events don't hurt us, our reactions to them do. And once we understand that, we can protect ourselves and others by controlling our speech. Pause, observe, reflect before you speak. When your feelings begin to surge, whether it's anger, excitement, or fear, don't give in to the impulse to speak immediately. Instead, take a breath, Let the initial emotional wave pass. Then, once you are calm and clear-headed, ask yourself, is what I'm about to say necessary? Is it helpful? Is it true? This kind of emotional discipline won't just help you avoid arguments. Emotional control not only helps you avoid saying things you might regret, it also helps you communicate more clearly, more honestly, and with greater impact, when your words come from a place of calm rather than anger. People take them more seriously. They listen, and they remember. Lesson number 5. Listen more than you speak. Epictetus once said, "It is impossible to learn what one thinks one already knows." And this is exactly the trap many people fall into. They don't really listen. They just wait for their turn to speak. But the truth is, real wisdom begins with listening. Next time you're in a conversation, try this. Pause before speaking. Truly pay attention to what the other person is saying. Try to see the world from their perspective, and only after you've fully understood them should you consider whether your words are worth saying out loud. People who listen more, learn more, and those who learn more, speak with greater clarity, depth, and wisdom. Why? Because their words are built on understanding, not assumption. Epictetus was right. His words are not just philosophical reflections, they're practical advice. But sadly, most people ignore this. They come into conversations with their minds already made up. They don't listen to understand, only to reply. That's not a conversation. That's a performance. And the result? No one learns. No one grows. Listening is more than just hearing sounds. It's about being fully present. It requires patience, focus, and a mind that's willing to stay open. Let's be honest with ourselves. How often do you find yourself planning your next sentence while the other person is still talking? How many times do you interrupt, eager to get your point across? It's normal, but it blocks real connection. When you truly listen, you don't rush to respond. You let the words settle. You absorb what the other person is saying. That's how you gain a real understanding of their perspective. Seneca, another great Stoic, often emphasized the power of listening. He believed that those who talk too much miss out on learning, because they're too busy showing off what they already know. Their ego stands in the way of growth. The Stoics believed that listening helps you learn more, not just about others, but also about yourself. When you truly listen, you'll catch insights, ideas, and wisdom you might have missed if you were only focused on what you were going to say. It changes how you understand others. It expands your mind, and it deepens your knowledge. So when it's your turn to speak, your words come from a place of wisdom, not assumption. They carry more clarity, more kindness, and more power. Make it a habit to listen more than you speak. In your next conversation, don't just wait to talk, really listen. Ask yourself, what are they truly trying to say? What can I learn from their point of view? When you learn to quiet your ego and speak only when necessary, your words begin to carry more weight. Now, let's talk about something even more underrated, but incredibly powerful. Lesson 7. The power of saying, "I don't know." As a general rule, people respect honesty far more than they respect false confidence. But here's the problem. Many people are afraid to admit when they don't know something. They feel pressured to have an answer for every question, every time. But to the Stoics, pretending to know something you don't wasn't a strength, it was a sign of weakness. So what should you do? If you genuinely don't know something, just say so. Say, "I'm not sure, but I'll find out." That kind of honesty earns respect, and more importantly, it keeps you from filling silence with half-truths, guesses, or outright lies. Socrates, often seen as a foundational influence on Stoic thinking, once said, "The only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing." It may sound paradoxical, but in truth, this simple admission is a mark of great humility and inner strength. In our modern world, though, people often feel compelled to always appear competent. The fear is, if I say, "I don't know," will I look foolish? Will I seem weak? So to protect that image, many start offering vague ideas, assumptions, or opinions they haven't really thought through. But the Stoics understood something vital. Genuine honesty is far more valuable than pretending to be an expert. When you're under pressure to look like you know something, it takes real courage to say you don't. And yet, people will trust and value you more when you say, "I don't know, but I'll find out," rather than forcing a fake answer just to impress. Admitting you don't know builds your credibility, not just your character. It shows that you're serious about truth, not ego. People can sense authenticity, and they'll value that more than someone who's constantly trying to appear all-knowing. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, reflected, "It's not that we don't have enough time to live, but that we waste a great deal of it. And one of the most common ways we waste time is pretending to know things we don't, just to protect our pride. Rather than using that time to listen, learn, and grow." Think back to a moment when someone asked you a question during a conversation or a meeting, something you weren't sure about. Did you rush to answer, just to avoid looking uncertain? What if, instead, you had paused and said, "I don't know the answer right now, but I'll look into it and get back to you"? That one small shift changes the entire tone of the conversation. It's no longer about saving face, it's about seeking truth. And that tells people you care more about being accurate than appearing right. Saying, "I don't know," also frees you from the exhausting need to perform. You don't have to pretend anymore. You can speak with openness, with humility, and without fear of being wrong. Because here's the truth. You're not supposed to know everything. What matters most is that you stay centered, acknowledge your limits, and take responsibility for your own growth. The next time you're unsure, just say, "I don't know." It will ground you in honesty and open you up to learning. That simple statement, "I don't know," is not a sign of weakness. It is, in fact, a quiet declaration of strength, a reminder that your pursuit of knowledge is real, not just for your own sake, but for the betterment of everyone around you. After learning the power of honestly admitting, "I don't know," we begin to realize something even deeper. It's not just about what we choose not to say. It's about how carefully we choose what to say that truly matters. Lesson 9. Words have power. Use them mindfully. Wise people have long understood that words, though invisible, carry incredible weight. A needless complaint can stain your carefully built image. A thoughtless remark can end a meaningful friendship. A single careless word, spoken in a moment of anger, can spark a conflict where peace once was. Marcus Aurelius advised, "Do not be overheard complaining, not even to yourself." He knew that if your only goal is to vent your frustration, it's better to say nothing at all. Every word you speak should have a reason, a purpose behind it, not just be a reaction to emotion. The Stoics were deeply aware that our words don't just affect us, they ripple outward, impacting the happiness and well-being of others. Words can heal wounds, uplift the discouraged, and inspire action, but they can also damage someone's self-worth, break relationships, and trigger unnecessary conflict. And once they're spoken, you can't take them back. Think about how often we talk without truly considering the consequences. We lash out in anger, spread rumors impulsively, or complain just to relieve our stress. It's all too easy to fall into the habit of speaking based purely on emotion. But the Stoic path teaches us something different: to pause and remember that our words always have an impact, not just on ourselves, but on everyone who hears them. Imagine how quickly a careless comment can escalate a simple disagreement into a full-blown argument. Or how constant complaining can change how people see you, making them think you're negative, difficult, or even toxic, whether that's who you really are or not. This is why Stoics practiced intentional, mindful speech. Before speaking, they would ask themselves, will this conversation add any real value? Will it bring peace, clarity, or insight? Or will it create confusion, conflict, or more noise? If the answer wasn't clear, they stayed silent. Even when they were just venting to themselves, they used that moment to reflect. Instead of spilling out frustration, they asked, what's really bothering me? Is there a lesson here? Can I handle this with more wisdom, patience, or gratitude? Seneca agreed with this deeply. In his letters, he reminded us that mindful speech is part of living a good life. The wise man, he said, is careful not only with what he does, but with what he says. He only spoke when it was truly necessary, and when his words could offer something meaningful. Page 10. Speak with purpose. Building on the previous lesson, where silence itself was shown to be a form of power, we now arrive at a deeper insight the Stoics held close to heart. Speak less. But when you do, speak with intention and clarity. They never saw words as filler. For them, every word spoken should serve a purpose and hold real value. Think about it. How many times in your recent conversations did you feel the need to say something just to break the silence? Have you ever found yourself blurting out small talk, complaints, or random thoughts, simply because the quiet made you uncomfortable? The truth is, talking more doesn't always mean you have more to say. In fact, those who speak less often earn more attention. Why? Because every word they do say seems carefully chosen and meaningful. That's why silence, in the Stoic view, is not a void to be filled, but a powerful tool that strengthens your voice. When you resist the urge to speak just for the sake of speaking, you create space, not only for others to share, but for yourself to listen more deeply. You begin to notice what's truly being said, not just in words, but in tone, in pauses, in what's left unspoken. Next time you're in a conversation, pause. Don't jump in to kill the awkward silence. Let it stretch. Let others speak first. Then, when it's your turn, choose your words carefully. You'll be surprised how much more impact your voice carries when it's calm, deliberate, and rare. Lesson 10. Speak with purpose. Marcus Aurelius lived by a simple but powerful rule: never vent your anger in words. There should be a reason for every word you speak. In other words, no mindless chatter, no gossip, no complaining just to feel better. Before you speak, ask yourself, is this truly important? If not, don't say it. It may sound strict, but this kind of restraint isn't weakness, it's wisdom. The Stoics believed that once spoken, words carry weight. They can build or destroy, heal or harm, inspire or divide. That's why every sentence should reflect your values and aim to uplift, clarify, or resolve. Reflect on your last few conversations. How many of them were filled with complaints or unnecessary talking? We all did. Talk without thinking, filling the space with words that don't actually contribute. But the Stoics saw speech as a sacred tool, not something to waste. So before you open your mouth, ask, what's the purpose of saying this? Will it make things clearer? Will it help solve a problem? Does it offer a more positive perspective? Or am I just talking to pass time, spread gossip, or vent frustration? If the answer doesn't serve a greater purpose, it's better to remain silent. Being quiet isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength, of control. When you only speak with intention, your words become more meaningful and people take notice. They'll listen more closely, knowing you don't waste their time. Marcus Aurelius famously said, "Let no one ever hear you complain, not even yourself." That wasn't just about avoiding negativity. It was a call to speak only when it truly matters. Speaking with purpose means being intentional. It's not about suppressing your voice, it's about honoring it. Think of your words as currency. Would you spend them on noise? Or would you invest them wisely to build clarity, connection, and trust? Before your next conversation, pause and reflect. Are you speaking to serve the moment, or just your emotions? That simple awareness can shift everything. Because when you master the art of intentional speech, you don't just talk, you influence. You lead, you connect, and your silence becomes as powerful as your words. Master your words. In the previous part, we explored the importance of speaking with intention, not to fill silence, not to vent anger, but to share words that carry real meaning. And now, we dive into one more subtle yet powerful truth. What you say reflects who you are. Every time you open your mouth, you're revealing something about your values, your goals, and even how you process thoughts. The Stoic approach isn't just about acting with purpose, it's also about speaking with intention. To them, every word should reflect a deeper meaning. Have you ever noticed how the most hurtful words often don't come from cruelty, but from fear? Seneca once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." That quote holds tremendous weight. Much of what we say that ends up hurting others doesn't stem from truth, but from our fears, insecurities, and imagined worries. If we were more mindful, if we paused before speaking, we might avoid causing unnecessary harm. We might protect not only others from stress or sadness, but also ourselves from regret. Words have power. They shape the energy around us, for better or worse. So the next time you feel the urge to speak, pause. Ask yourself, is this helping someone? Is this needed? If the answer is no, let silence speak for you. Because sometimes, silence is the kindest and wisest response. There's a surprising benefit to speaking more carefully. It doesn't just improve your conversations, it improves your life. When you speak with intention, you invite more peace and clarity into your relationships and your own mind. Remember, words are tools, and like any tool, their value depends on how you use them. Use them with care, and they become powerful instruments for change. One of the highest forms of self-discipline is learning to master your words. The Stoics knew this well. They understood that what you say shapes what is real. A thoughtful sentence can uplift a tired heart. A careless remark can destroy years of trust. That's why they spoke sparingly, but with impact. So be deliberate, be clear, be wise with your speech. When you do, you gain respect, inner strength, and peace of mind, outcomes no amount of empty talk can ever bring. So, out of all 10 lessons, which one resonated with you the most? Drop a comment below. I read them all. And if you're truly serious about mastering self-discipline, don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.